Hey, all you ghoulish gourmets, and welcome to yet another Movie Munchies. I know I haven't done one in a while. I've been promising and kind of teasing around, and I'm sorry for how I look, but hopefully, y'all are not paying attention to how I look. You're going to pay attention to what I'm going to be making today, which is going to be.
Oh, Dana, what delicious recipe are we creating today? I am really hungry.
Well, RJ, I'm glad you asked. And by the way, that's RJ, the friendly movie munchies monster. And he may be joining me, more than likely, will be joining me from time to time on these movie munchies segments. But today, if you have not noticed what's on the screen, I will be doing slaughtered lamb pub cheese. And for you fans of American Werewolf in London, you will know what the slaughtered lamb is. The slaughtered lamb, in case you aren't in the know, is the pub, tavern, bar, whatever you want to call it, in England, where David and Jack go to kind of get warmed up and hopefully to have a little food and uh, some alcohol to warm them up. And they have a weird experience with the people in the pub or tavern. Um, and there's, all kinds of werewolf talk, and it kind of weirds them out, and they leave. And unfortunately, once they leave, they are attacked by a werewolf. Okay, so this is actually a recipe that was taken off of the back of a townhouse flip sides. These are pretzel crackers. These are things are very, very good and very addictive. And you can see that there is the pub cheese recipe. And I mean, it's pretty simple. And like I said, this is going to be a pretty quick movie munchies, but I hadn't done one in a while and I wanted to do one before the end of May. So, what are we going to need to make this? Okay. So, first of all, we're going to need a pound of Irish cheddar cheese broken into chunks. I have already done that. So, I'm going to um, bring up the haunted food cam here so that you guys and gals can see. This is some Irish cheddar cheese here. I've got 2 containers of it broken into chunks. And this is actually, um, I could, there were very few types of Irish cheddar cheese. This is Kerry Gold aged cheddar. Now, I know a lot of the pub cheese looks more yellow. This looks more white. And it's probably going to look white instead of more yellowish. Okay. But this wasn't cheap, folks. I'm going to say that the Irish cheddar cheese is not cheap. And I kind of fudged a little bit and didn't get um, a whole pound. I got about 2 ounces shy of a pound because these were each 7 ounces, and they cost me a pretty penny. So, if you can find some cheaper Irish cheddar cheese, or you may say, well, the heck with that. I'm not getting Irish cheddar cheese. I'm just getting regular cheddar cheese. That would be y'all's prerogative on that. Okay. So we've got that. We need also a half a cup of lager beer or non alcoholic beer if you don't want to imbibe in any kind of alcohol, whether it's in a dip or whatever. You are welcome to get non alcoholic beer. I have a half a cup of, I tried to find some Irish beer that I could afford because I was only going to use a half cup of it and I didn't think I wanted to drink it. And I could not find any that was inexpensive. So I ended up getting Foster's, the Australian beer, and it didn't cost me that much. And I didn't want to drink the rest of it, and Steve didn't want to, so I threw the rest out. I know, shame, shame. But you know, I got my half cup that I needed for this recipe, and that's all I needed it for. So I was not going to spend a lot on um, the beer for this. Okay, so you also need 4 ounces of cream cheese, which I've got here. I've already got it cut to 4 ounces. Usually you get about 8 ounces. And you can get Philadelphia cream cheese. You can get the store bought cream cheese. It does not matter, right? All right. So, what else do we need? We also need, um, oops, and I forgot to get this out, folks. We need a teaspoon of paprika. So I'm just going to go to my spice rack, and I have McCormick smoked paprika, but you can use whatever paprika you have in your house. Um, I'm glad I didn't leave that out when we made this. Um, so we're going to need a teaspoon of paprika, and we're also going to need a tablespoon of spicy brown mustard. Now, you can just get spicy brown mustard, but I ended up getting private selection spicy beer whole grain mustard because I thought it would be good in this pub cheese. But you can get whatever kind that you like. You don't have to get the exact kind that I got. Um, we also need a fourth of a teaspoon of garlic powder. Again, you use whatever garlic powder that you like. This is Smart Way garlic powder from Kroger. So, and of course, if you want to spread it on some crackers, I would highly, highly recommend the Townhouse flip sides. Like I said, they're pretzel on one side, cracker on the other, and they are absolutely delicious, folks. Um, and that's where I got the recipe for the pub cheese. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and now I know it says you use a food processor, folks, but I looked at the price of food processors and I wasn't liking the price of them. So I may regret this, but I'm going to use my blender, my Hamilton Beach blender that y'all have seen me use before on these episodes of Movie Munchies. And I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. I should have already had it plugged in. Um, oh, good gracious. I don't usually have trouble with it. I'm going to move it over a little bit where that cord's not stretched so much. So hopefully y'all can still see that. All right. Um, okay. So, like I said, I may regret this. I may tear up my blender, and people will say, "Well, Dana, I told you so." Don't you need a food processor for this kind of stuff? But I'm going to try to use the blender and use my pulse function on the blender, folks. And hopefully, we won't have a disaster right here on camera. Otherwise, this movie Munchies might not go out. All right. So, we need to, first of all, we need to put our cheese into, if you have a food processor, fantastic. You can use a food processor. And if I don't have a disaster, um, if you don't have a food processor, if you have a blender, a pretty heavy duty blender, you can try it as well. So we're going to put our cheese, and I'm going to make um, the haunted food can the solo layout. Hopefully y'all can still hear me. I didn't take myself out of there. So we're putting our cheese into our blender, or if you have a food processor, kind of. And keep in mind though, you want to make sure that you got that cheese crumbled up before you put it in anything. All right. So I'll put the top on here good. And we're going to try this until it says, um, until it becomes crumbles. Okay. So we're going to try this. Okay. So I can see that that's what they mean by wanting you to use a food processor, because you may have to do some finagling. Now be careful. Don't cut yourself on the blades or whatever you're using, right? So let's move that stuff around a little bit. We can. It started out doing great, and then you may just have to keep moving it around a little bit. You may even have to. So this kind of. See, this is probably why they tell you to use a food processor, right? So, like I said, if you have a food processor, then definitely go with the food processor, folks. I think we've got some of this, maybe. It was doing some of it like that. So let's take a little bit out. Maybe we need to just do it a little bit at a time here. So that's probably the thing that we can do, right? Well, it's working pretty well. So, we kind of made it work. So what I'm going to do temporarily, I'm going to attempt to pour some of these crumbles out of the blender, maybe. Just remember safety first, folks. Don't, cut yourself. I'm going to try not to cut myself here. Sometimes we have to improvise a little bit if we don't have exactly the proper tools, right? Like I said, if you have a food processor, then great. I would use that thing for this. I may get myself a food processor at a later date, but I was just not really in a position to. And I wanted to get a good one, if I was going to get one. And, the price tag on these just wasn't in my budget right now. Okay. So let's see if we can get the rest of this cheese in here. to cooperate with us and get into crumbles here. And y'all might be saying, Dana just does not know what she's doing. Well, some of those bigger pieces must be giving me problems. We have to do this about 3 times, maybe. I don't know what that was. Oh, that was Darcy. This one do this a little bit at a You don't want to be too hard on your blender. Here. I'm just trying to get the majority of these crumbles out of here. And then we're going to add them back when we go to add the other ingredients, right? I think just too much cheese in the blender just causes it to gum up the works a little bit. So we don't want to be too hard on our blender. Our blender really is not made to do this, but I'm forcing it to, right? I mean, be careful too, even if you're using a food processor. You know, remember, safety first, right? Don't let anybody injuring themselves and having to go to the hospital because they've cut themselves on blender or food processor blades, right? All right, here we go. This is the last. All right. So that looks pretty good. So we're gonna put all of this back in here first. Okay, kind of even it out just a little bit. All right. So now that we got our cheese done, now we're gonna add our cream cheese. Remember, 4 ounces cream cheese is what we need. And if you are not using a food processor, I'm going to suggest that you kind of just, and clean hands, remember that, folks. Just kind of tear this cream cheese up. If you hear Sammy in there, he's not being tortured. He scratches himself and he makes those noises whenever he's doing that. Sounds like somebody's, torturing him. All right, so I'm going to wipe cream cheese off my hands. So we're also going to put our beer in here. That's a cup of beer or non-alcoholic beer. Using that. Okay. And we're going to put our mustard, which we need a tablespoon of our spicy brown mustard. So go ahead and get that. And I'm usually, and people that know me know this about me, that I'm not a big fan of mustard. And by that, I mean, I'm normally not a fan of just yellow mustard. I always said it tastes like dirt. And people probably say, well, Dana, how do you know what dirt tastes like? Have you ate dirt lately? But it's the way I would think that dirt would taste like. It just doesn't have a taste that I like. But I like variations of mustard. So I'm attempting to get a tablespoon of this spicy beer mustard. And again, clean hands, folks, when you're doing this kind of stuff. So as much of that as we can in there. All right. And we're also going to put our paprika in here. So we need a teaspoon of the paprika. I hope I have enough because I didn't buy any. Right? Put that in there. And I'm doing what my mom always told me was the best way to do things is put up things as you use them and clean up as best you can as you go along. All right. So that's what I'm attempting to do here. I do every time. All right. And our garlic powder. So we're going to have a fourth of a teaspoon of garlic powder in this. Put that in there. All right. Oops. Sorry for shaking the on the food pan there, folks. All right. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to put the cover back on. Please put the cover back on your blender or your food processor. And we're going to process it until smooth. And you can stop the processor or the blender at any time and kind of scrape down the sides as needed. Okay. So that's basically what we're going to do here. Please make sure you put the top back on there tightly. And I'm going to say that I'm going to use the smoothie function, the puree smoothie function, to try to blend this. Okay, so here we go. And I can see that we're probably going to have to get in here with this because, like I said, this is not a food processor, and we're going to kind of have to. We're probably going to have to help it move along because it's trying to do what it needs to do, but I'm going to help it along here um, because it's probably a thing of the blades just aren't strong enough to move this thick stuff around. So this is kind of my version of scraping down the sides as needed and stuff like that. So Like I said, you're probably going to have less issues if you use a food processor. Let's try this again. Again, make sure your top is on there good because we don't want any messes. All right, let's try this again. The important thing, gang, is not to burn your blender up. So, again, I'm just trying to mix this around a little bit. This is one of those things where you work with what you have, folks. Just trying to move everything around in there. Just to help it along just a little bit. It does taste very good. But be careful about taste testing if you're having company over, and it's not just going to be you eating this pub cheese and crackers, right? Okay, we're going to move things around in there again. It's getting there. It's just a little bit slower going, doing it this way. And this stuff is, really thick, folks. You can see it's starting to blend, but it needs a little help. Let's give it another go here. And I'm beginning to see that I might have wanted to go ahead and invest in the food processor because, like I said, this is kind of slow going. I'm just trying to get this cheese and stuff out of the way of the blade because I think that is what's going on here. The blade can't move very good. Pause. This stuff is hungry. And I know it looks like I'm making a big old mess. But trust me, this stuff does taste good. Let's, now that we've got some of that stuff away from the blades, get this. Steve's probably gonna say, "What are you doing, man? You're making all kinds of noise." Uh, just moving this around. You can see it's getting blended. It's just I'm seeing that it's going to take a little while longer to get it blended up real good using the blender. Because, like I said, I didn't want to burn up my blender here. That's why I'm trying to baby it a little bit. Sorry if I keep hitting the camera, the extra camera of my head. And I'm seeing with the paprika and everything that this is looking more yellow than white. There. Gang, I think what I'm going to do is pause this where you guys are not having to watch me blend this, and then I will come back in a few and we will see what this looks like. Okay, gang, I am back, and you can see the fruits of my labor here. This is my first batch of pub cheese, and it tastes pretty good. Now, I'm actually going to um, spread it on a cracker and and eat some of it and show you guys that I'm not going to die from this, right? But I am going to. Well, I'm not going to exit the solo layout just yet. I'm actually going to, you know, show me. You maybe show you guys. You may be saying, "Geez, Louise, saying you don't have to show us, spreading it on the cracker." Some of y'all might think, "Boy, she put a lot of cheese on there." Okay, so now I'm going to exit the solo layout, and I'm going to make me the solo layout. And as you can see here, if I don't drop this, um, I have one of the townhouse flip sides covered with the pub cheese. And gang, this is a winner for me. Um, y'all may be thinking, well, Dana, you do that with just about all your recipes. But I'm a big fan of cheese and cheese dips and cheese spreads and all that stuff. Um, and this is one of the best. It does definitely taste like that type of either beer cheese or pub cheese, as they call it in this recipe. Um, that it has a really, really good, robust flavor. Not only the cheese flavor, but you taste the paprika in it and the garlic and the beer gives it its own, special taste. And remember, folks, you don't have to use an alcoholic beer. Okay, you can use a non-alcoholic beer. You know, and also, I think the the dip would have been smoother, or the pug cheese would have been smoother had I had a food processor. So if you have a food processor and you want to make this recipe, definitely use the food processor, folks. Now I probably could have kept, blending it for a while and letting the blender rest and blending it a little bit more and got it a little more smooth. But I'll tell you, folks, when I took the blade out of the blender, it was hot, you know. So I wasn't even pushing it that hard. But if if at all possible, either purchase you a food processor, or if you have one, definitely use it for this recipe if you decide to make it, because it's going to make your life a lot easier. And so I guess that's it for this movie Munchies, making slaughtered lamb pub cheese. I hope that you guys and gals have enjoyed watching this. I made this, even though I had to pause it here, but you guys won't really notice. I'll go away and then I'll come back. Um, I just didn't think that you guys and gals needed to watch me, keep blending that, keep blending it, keep blending it. Um, so I've enjoyed this one. I've enjoyed the fruits of my labor. I'm going to enjoy some more of it. But I want to thank everybody that checks this video out. And as always, I'm off like a dirty shirt. This shirt ain't dirty, even though I've been cooking in it, but I'm off like one. And I want to remind everybody, as I always do before I get out of here for the night, because it is almost 10 o'clock. This is a very late movie Munchies that I'm recording. Um, to have a fantastic, well, first of all, I want to say to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. I almost forgot my other tagline. And have a fantastic rest of your Sunday. For those of you that are off for Memorial Day, I hope that's a lot of you. Me and Steve are. Um, I hope you have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Spend it with family and friends, doing whatever makes you happy, right? As long as it's not breaking the law. And I'm going to leave you with a little tip um, from RJ here.
First, don't try this at home. We are professionals.
And also, RJ wants to remind you of this too.
Pretend you didn't just see that. This behavior is not good. Kitchen cleanliness.
And thank you, RJ, for the tips. I'm going to actually, remove that and say goodbye for now, folks. But I'll see everybody next time.